My name is Theodore, and I come from Greece. I want to share a horror experience that happened about 10 years ago when I was about 11 or 12 years old. It was the holidays, and we were staying at my grandparents' house. My brother and I usually slept in the double bed in the living room, the one that faced the front door. But that night, we slept in the guest room because our grandma had recently broken her back and needed the double bed. The guest room had 2 single beds. The one I took was right next to the window, which faced the road outside. We turned off the lights, shut the blinds, and laid down to sleep at about 11 p.m. Then, in the middle of the night, I woke up. I could hear something. There was a tapping sound at the window. I was immediately uneasy. I tried to wake up my brother, but he was still sleeping. At first, I thought it might be our cousin Mila. She lived in the apartment just above my grandma's and was much older than us. Mila often came home drunk during the summer and sometimes forgot her keys. I figured she might be trying to get our attention so we could let her in. "Mila?" I called out. No answer. I got up and crept quietly into the living room, careful not to wake up my grandma. I opened the front door and stepped outside. No one was there. But then I looked at the guest room window. That's when I saw them. Long scratch marks made by fingernails streaking across the glass. Whoever had been tapping on the window wasn't doing it gently. It was aggressive. I rushed back inside, locked the door behind me, and went back to the guest room. I crawled into bed, heart pounding, and then it started again. Tap, tap, tap. Right outside the window. I ducked under the sheets, frozen. I wanted so badly to open the blinds and see who or what was out there, but something deep in my gut told me not to. I stayed like that for what felt like forever, until I finally passed out from fear and exhaustion. In the morning, I asked my grandma if Mila had come home yet. She looked confused and told me, "No, Mila's out of town for the whole week." That made my blood run cold. The town we were in is small, so small it barely counts as a town at all. It's more like a village. There's no hotel, no place for strangers to stay overnight. The closest town with a place to sleep is Varda, and that's about an hour and a half away. Whoever was outside my window that night wasn't a stranger passing through. They had to be someone local. At the time, I thought it might be a prank. There were only 2 other kids around, a pair of siblings who, like us, were there just for the holidays. They were loud, annoying, and always trying to mess with me and my brother. So I walked down the street to their house and rang the doorbell. No answer. I asked one of the neighbors about them, and they told me,
"Oh, that family left 2 days ago. Went back to the capital."
So if it wasn't Mila, and it wasn't the only other kids in town, then who was tapping on our window? To this day, I still don't know, and I'm glad I never opened those blinds. God only knows what I would have seen.
Hi, my name is Malaysia. I'm here to tell you a true story that happened to me when I was about 7 or 8-ish years old. Back then, in 2011, a tornado had hit our house. The damage was bad enough that I was sent to stay with my grandma for a few weeks until everything went back to normal. One day, my grandma had had almost all of her grandchildren over to stay the night. Let's call them Marcus, Leah, Amia, Rico, and Nina. We all slept on the floor on pallets. I woke up in the middle of the night. The time on the cable box was 3:20, 3:40, something like that. Everyone else was sleeping, and I watched the TV for a little bit, when my attention drifted towards this dark hallway. I really wasn't sure why. After about 2 minutes, a figure appeared. It looked just like my grandpa, with a huge stomach, sort of a long head, but there was something off. The figure was much lighter than him. My grandpa was really dark-skinned. He seemed to walk in a strange way, more of like a limp. And something else strange was that he was walking towards my uncle's room, right across from the room he and my grandma shared. He never went in there. Being the curious little child that I was, I called out to him like, "Papa?" The figure stopped as soon as it heard my voice, slowly turned my way. Once I got a good look at his face, my heart dropped. It wasn't him. It was something else. The figure charged my way. Terrified, I hid under the covers, forcing myself to try to go to sleep. When I woke up again around 12 or 1, later than all of my cousins, I tried to explain to them what had happened. and they just laughed at me and said they didn't believe me, except Amia, who was very quiet. When all of my cousins got up to make themselves something to eat, I looked over at Amia. She looked back at me with fear in her eyes and said, "I saw it too." This story is very much real. When I'm sitting alone thinking about it, I remember it. I can't believe I remember it to this day. I'm 20 now, and I still refuse to sleep without a blanket over my head and my bedroom door closed.